everyone, my name is Danessa. I'm a trainer here at Modio, and we are going to dive into our forms feature here. So the forms feature houses all the forms or applications that you may have submitted. And this feature is integrated with DocuSign. So that just means that the forms are sent through DocuSign and provider signatures can be acquired electronically. So the forms you submitted will be mapped and they will show in this available status. And mapping a form just means that the forms are set up to pull the data from your provider profiles and pre-fill out your forms as they are sent. So a key takeaway for success when using the forms feature is that prior to sending a form to your provider, that credentialing profile needs to hold all the data requested by the form. Because again, forms pull the info from the provider profile and pre-fill out onto the form. So very important to have that profile as complete as possible. So let's go through each of these columns here. So first is this ID number column. So you just want to use this number for reference when you reach out to support, just so our team can have something to refer back to provide you with further assistance. Next is the status column. So most of the time it will say available here. If it ever says in process, that just means it's not available because the forms team is still mapping it. Next, we have our template column. So you can have a single or a composite. And a composite just means that we can link single forms together, and you only have to send them once instead of sending each form one by one, which saves you some time. You can still send them off separately if you needed to, but the provider could sign them in like one big bulk. Also, even if something is part of a composite, it's still available in that single status, and you'll still be able to send it as a single form. So in order to do that, in the templates dropdown, you would just filter to all, and there are those forms, those single forms that are included in those composites that we have here. So I can still send them out individually if I needed to. Next, we have the count column. So the count is directly related to the template. So your singles will have a 1 next to it. If you were to have any composites, like this one here, and it's made up of 3 singles, it'll have the number 3 next to it. This composite here towards the bottom has 7 singles, so it'll have the number 7 next to it, so forth and so on. Next, we have the form name column. So normally our form team names the forms as it's labeled when you send it over to be mapped, but you do have full access to edit this name. Jumping over to the form type column, this is just a filtering option to help you find the forms that you are looking for, and you'll be able to edit this feature as well. And the way that you edit these is by clicking on the edit button here under the actions item column. It looks like a little pen and paper. So when I click there, I get this pop-up. So that form name field is here at the top. So it's a free text section. You can add to it if you want it, remove it, make it your own. There's also the form type dropdown, so you can scroll through and find a better match. Also, we have this completed form permission here. So the completed form permission indicates and can change the visibility for all completed forms using the template. So changing the form type here will display the matching completed form template. So if I were to change it to like an AMA profile, we can see it change that completed form permission to coordinator only team. Now, if this is something that you would like to change, you can just reach out to support@modiohealth.com and we can change that for you. Moving down, we have a due date field. So you can add any due dates to your forms. And if you do add a due date, once we reach that calendar date, your form line item will turn red in color, like we can see the one here in the background. You can still use that form and your providers won't see anything on their end. Some use that due date as maybe like a signal. So for instance, maybe you have an updated version of a form and you want to stop using that one on on a certain date, you could add this due date to make sure that it's brought to everyone's attention that you're using that updated form. Additionally, there's a tags field here, so you do have the option to add a tag to any of your forms. You can only have one tag per form, and you can utilize this tag to sort your forms. And then finally, at the bottom, we have this note section. So this is just a free text. You can add any notes to your forms there. And of course, if you're making any changes, just always go ahead to remember to hit save. Next, we have the tag column. So again, if you add any tags to your forms, you'd be able to see those here. Next, we have the last updated column. This is the date of the last time any changes were made to that form. Under the actions item column, we just went over that edit icon. We also have this envelope icon here, and this is what you're going to click on when you're ready to send a form out to a provider. And we'll jump back to that in just a second. And then next we have this cloud with the down arrow. So that allows you to download a blank PDF of the form that is listed here. So let's go through that process of sending a form to a provider. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to click on this envelope icon here. At the very bottom, I don't know if you were able to catch it, but it said preparing the form to send. So when sending a form for the first time, there is a small processing time needed to prepare that form template. You'll be able to see the processing indicator the first time you or someone on your team opens a new form or clicks on that envelope icon, and it will be indicated by a red text that says preparing the form to send. So you'll see it briefly. The length of time needed to process the form will vary by the size of the form. So short forms, it may just be like a second or two. Some larger forms or composites, it may be a little bit longer. But that is something that is really great, and I think that's a really great enhancement just because before this, the processing time was affecting all forms every time they were sent, causing some delays and occasional timeouts. Now it only happens once the first time you or someone on your team opens that form. So a very nice time-saving improvement, nothing you have to do on your end. But if you do open a larger form and let's say it's taking a minute to load, I just recommend filling out the fields here while you're waiting. And let's get into these fields. So at the top, there's that form name. So just double check that is the correct form that you like to send out. Next, we see where it says pre-form for. So this is where you are going to select the provider from your team list. You can add multiple providers, just up to 9 at a time. We'll just be selecting the one. Next, we see it says send form to. So sending it to yourself is a best practice because you can review the details, make any edits before sending this form to your provider. Also, sending it to another coordinator is another best practice because they can do the same thing, review the details, and make any edits here. There's also this provider option. So this option would bypass you and it would send the form directly to the provider. And then finally, we do have this contact option. So that is for someone outside your organization, but we would need to make that contact for you. It's not just a free text here. One other thing I wanted to point out, if we X out of here, if you also need to send out a peer reference form, if we click that envelope icon here again, and if we select our provider's name, we now see that option for peer reference. So you can select that peer reference for that provider. So 2 things I wanted to point out. In order to see that option appear for your provider, that provider needs to have an active peer reference listed in their profile under that peer reference section. Also, the email address needs to be entered in for that peer reference. So I just also wanted to point that out here. But I want to send my composite, so I'll just cancel out. And let's just go ahead and send out my composite packet. So let's select my provider's name. And the email subject and message box, though they're both free text sections, so you can free text in whatever you like there. But there's also this include attachment checkbox. So if I check that off, we see these additional tabs appear. So this Documents tab, this is attached to the provider's profile. So there are documents. You can attach any of those documents to this form. We can click Browse, so you can add a document from your computer. And then if we click Completed Forms, this option is also attached to the provider's profile past completed forms. So maybe a popular use case would be if there's a form that has to be filled out annually and maybe you wanted to attach last year's version as a reference. We won't be including any attachments today, so I'm just going to uncheck that box. And then the last thing you would do is you would just go ahead here to the bottom and hit that blue send button there. And it is now going to send to the email address that's attached to my coordinator login. While it's sending, I do want to point out if we click on the envelope icon again, we do see, so it lets me know the form was sent successfully, but it does give you a sent history here within that form. If you ever need to maybe resend it to yourself, you can always just click that envelope icon there to resend that form. Okay, so I did get that email in my inbox. So let's look at that now. So this is the email that you will receive. It will have your team name and team logo here, but we're going to go ahead and hit Review Document. And it is now going to take us to DocuSign. So while it's loading, I do want to point out everything goes through the Modio DocuSign account. No one on your team needs to create their own account. So we are going to agree to use electronic records and signatures and then hit continue. And now here is that form here. So as we navigate down the form, we can view those pre-populated fields from the data in the provider profile. So best practice is to review the fields that had been pre-populated by the data in the provider profile just to make sure that everything is correct. So if I needed maybe to, if this last number was wrong and I need to put a 0, I can do that here. I can scroll down, I can check any boxes, uncheck any boxes, maybe do whatever I needed to do before sending this form over to my provider for signature. So your recommended workflow is first, send it to yourself. Second, check everything is there as it should be. And third, you're going to send it to your providers for signatures. So there is this finish button here in the upper right-hand corner. So that's for your providers. Once they've completed and signed the form, they will hit finish. But there is this drop down, and this is the other actions drop down. So we have this finish later option. So you can use this if you don't have time to finish reviewing this form and you just need to come back to it later. Print and sign here at the bottom. If a form does not allow an electronic signature, you can print this out, have your provider provide you with like a wet signature. Decline to sign. So if someone declined to sign the form, they would select decline. They do also have to put in a reason why they are declining. And then finally, assign to someone else. So this is the option you are going to click on to forward this form to your provider. So once we do that, we get this pop-up here. So you're going to add your provider's name, their email address here, and you can also free text any instructions. So I'll just put my name in because I am playing the role of the provider. And then the last thing we're going to do is hit assign. And the edits that I made to the form will save and forward to the provider. And then the provider will then have the opportunity to edit any fields and then sign and finish the form. Now I'm playing the role of the provider. So this is the email that your providers are going to receive. It will also, again, have your logo here. They are going to go ahead and click that same review document button. If you did type anything in that box, in that free text section when you were assigning this form to them, it will also show here at the bottom, but we didn't type anything, so that's why it's blank. So we're going to go ahead and hit review document. Again, takes us to DocuSign. They're also going to agree to use electronic records and signatures and then hit continue. Now, the first thing that they're going to see is this changes to chair field notification, and that's just letting the provider know that the coordinator's gone through and made some changes to this form before they sent it over to them. So they can just go ahead and hit continue. And here's that form. As we navigate down the form, anything that I changed while I was playing the role of the coordinator is going to be highlighted in this like pinkish red color. And that's kind of useful because if you just go through and check a box, there's no way they're going to notice what's changed. So this kind of draws their attention to it. But your provider has all of the editing capability that the coordinator does. So they can come through, they can, delete text, they can add text here. They can check boxes, uncheck boxes, do whatever they needed to do to make sure that this form is as complete as possible. One of the use cases I like to use for this is, let's say your provider's recently moved. Maybe you guys haven't had a chance to update their address and their profile yet. They can come in here when entering this form to make sure they enter in their correct address. So that way a couple days or months, however long, this form doesn't come back and cause any issues because there's incorrect information on it. So it still gives them the ability to edit whatever they need to. When the form comes back to me as a coordinator, it will show the changes that they made on the form. Our forms team can also make most radio buttons and fields required. So I know sometimes providers may not get the chance to answer everything that you need them to, and then you may have to resend them the form. So if that's something that you notice or something you want our forms team to do, just reach out and they'll go ahead and make those things required for you. Again, they can make fields required as well. And I can tell you exactly how to request those changes a little bit later on. I just find it useful to mention while we're looking at the form. So this is a great example of a field that is required. So if I were to hit finish, we can see it pops me to that field and it's letting me know there are 7 required fields left for this form. Also, if we scroll down to a signature tab, we can see this one is marked as required. And all that means is, again, if I try to skip or hit finish, it pops them right back to that signature field. So to adopt a signature or initial for DocuSign, it's super easy. You just click on the signature tab. The name and initials will appear here at the top. You have the option to choose between the DocuSign pre-made style over here towards the right. Also, if they would prefer to draw their signature, if they have a trackpad, they can draw their signature here or with the mouse, or also upload a photo of their signature if they have one saved on their desktop. So once they decide how they want to pull in their signature, they will just hit adopt and sign, and it pulls in that signature there, and super easy for the rest of the form. You'll see we just have to click on that signature tab and it pulls in the signature. If you ever need that signature field to be made optional, so if it's ever an either or, our forms team can definitely make that optional. There's also a date field beside this signature field, and we put in what's called a auto-populated date. And that's really nice because you may have a long form. Let's say we send it on Monday, they get to it and finish it on Friday. This date is always going to pull the current date that the form is signed and completed on, so they won't have to worry about going back and forth and changing the dates. So this is always going to pull that current date. But again, if there are forms where you don't want dates to pull, we can just leave a blank box here as well, so you aren't bound to those auto-populated dates either. I'm going to go ahead and complete this form here. So as you can see, after I adopted my signature, it's super easy. I just have to click that signature tab and it pulls that signature in for me. So finally, the last thing they would do, and what we're going to do today, is hit that finish button there to finish that form since we've completed it. Just letting them know that they're done signing. A copy of this document will be sent to their email address. So we'll just hit continue. And then again, it's going to prompt you to sign up for DocuSign. So again, no one in your organization, whether it's a provider, coordinator, contact, needs to do so they can just disregard. So the coordinator that originally sent the email, so in this case, it's me, I'm going to receive a DocuSign complete email as well as a PDF copy of that sign form, and the provider is going to receive a DocuSign complete email as well as a PDF copy of the sign form for their records if they need it. Okay, again, the reason I'm receiving this email is because I'm the coordinator that originally sent the form, and in this case, I also play the role of the provider, so that's why I'm receiving two of those completed emails here. So there is the PDF attachment to our email of those completed forms. So I could save the complete form and maybe like a separate folder and then send them out from there. If you use the composite feature, which is what we did today, we have a separate PDF for each of those forms that they sign, so I can save them and send them off individually as well. If we scroll down, we can view that completed document through DocuSign. And then below, it gives us like a markup history, so who signed it, when it was signed, that sort of thing. So that is everything that is included in this email that you will receive from DocuSign. Next, I wanted to show you a bit of reporting that we have. So I'm going to go back to the platform. And I am going to go ahead and click on my reports tab here. And once I'm there, under my standard reports folder, we do have a forms report. So let's click on that. And it may take a second or so. Perfect. Here's that report. So this is really nice because this will capture all of the forms that you've ever sent out and to what provider and the status that those forms are in. So we can see there's that form name column. If we scroll over, we can see the provider name, the coordinator who sent it, the status of that form, when it was sent, when it was delivered, when it was completed. And again, we can utilize our filtering options here within our reports tab. So I just want to look at the forms that are completed. I can go to my filter option and we can scroll down to send status. We can select completed. And then maybe if I also wanted to, maybe if it's a specific document type, so maybe like a payer application, we can apply those filters. We can see it is running that query for us, so we'll receive that report. And there we have it. And it filtered to that completed status here. And if we scroll over, there's that document type that we selected. Also, if you to kind of remove some of these columns, customize it a little bit more, we do have the gear icon here towards the bottom. And it allows you, if you click on the little eyeball icon, it allows you to hide those columns that you may not need or feel necessary in this report. So we'll hit done. And then again, if this is a report that you'll look at pretty frequently, you can always go ahead and hit save here over towards the right. And what I like to do is in the description here, I like to put in the filters that I apply. So we can do send status complete and document type payer app. And we will save this to our personal collection. We won't add that to the dashboard yet. And to get out of this report, we would go ahead and click on that OneView icon or Modio icon. And we can click on our little sidebar there. It's just the 3 lines. And if we click on our personal collection, there is that forms modified report that we just created. So really, really cool. Allows you to kind of manipulate that forms report there if needed. So let's go back to our forms tab here. And while we were just talking about those different statuses, I do just want to explain those. So if we click on the envelope icon here again, remember it gives you that sent history in here as well. But I just want to define the different statuses. So sent, that means that form was sent but not opened. Delivered, that's what we just did. I played the role of the provider. I opened the email. Completed, once I hit sign and then hit finish, the form will be marked as completed. Voided, the form will auto void after 120 days if it's not been completed, and then decline. So if someone declined to sign it, it will show here as decline. What's really cool is there is this icon over here under the actions item column. This is called the certificate of completion. So you'll see this icon appear when that status of that form is completed. So let's click on that here. And this is going to be a PDF. Perfect. So this is a DocuSign certificate of completion. So just in case you may need to have this on file or for any documentation reasons, it gives you the envelope ID number here. It gives you who signed it, the signature, the email attached to the signature, the timestamp, as well as the ER and signature disclosure information. So this will always live here. And again, I do want to show you where those completed forms are stored within your provider profile. So since we're here in the envelope icon, we see there's a doctor icon here, and we know that is a quick link to that provider's profile. But if we click here, it takes us to that completed form section within your provider profile. So you have the option to download the completed forms from here. You can also click that little edit icon there and add an expiration date to your completed forms, as well as any notes, which is really nice. Just make sure, again, you hit save. But again, these completed forms are always going to be stored within the provider profile, so you aren't just bound to that email that you receive from DocuSign. Also, you have the option to download that completed form right from here. So if you do that, you can open that here. It'll be a PDF, and there is that completed form. So really, really nice. So we'll hit cancel. So that's the kind of the first way. The second option that you have, if I hit on the team tab there and filter to my provider's name, I can click on their name here. It takes me to their profile. Once I'm in their profile, if we go down to the document section, and in the document section, there's that completed forms tab. If we click there, again, there's that screen that when we clicked on the doctor icon earlier, it took us back here. So a couple different ways you can get to that section for your providers. Also, to show you where the completed forms are stored within V2, I'm going to hit the Team tab just to show you the parity between V1 and V2. If we click the V2 tab right there in the middle, again, we're going to go to that Documents tab here. And if we scroll down, there is our completed forms grid. You can utilize that V2 filtering functionality. So if I want to type in my provider's first or last name in that filter box, I can do that here. If I'm adding expiration dates to my forms, I can utilize my filters just to filter down to those completed forms that are expired. So I do want to go over how to reach out to support here, as well as some other things on our training and support page that I think are very helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that support tab. And this is our training and support page. A lot of different materials here. We have all of our tip guides, which are super helpful if you are ever curious on any other features within the platform. So I do just want to go over how to reach out to support in regards to your forms. So it can be anything that you like to change on your existing form. So any edits, updates, corrections. Maybe you're going through a form and you're pretty sure that your provider has education information in their profile, but it's not pulling onto the form. You might need the forms team to take a look at those mappings, or maybe you just want to make certain things required. So what you're going to do, if we scroll down, this first bullet under the additional resources, it's this OneView form mapping QA sheet composite. We're going to click there. And this first page is just some written instructions, but these next two pages are just like these big blue charts. And this is what you're going to use most often to get in contact with the forms team. So again, you can use this for like your normal tweaks. Maybe you're going through a form and you're realizing like, maybe the mapping isn't correct or it's not pulling in what you may need it to. All they'll need to make those corrections is the form ID number, the page number you notice the issue on, and then the field or section name it's under. This also helps them a lot for mapping issues, just so they know what mappings they're taking a look at. So they know if it's education information or practice information, things like that. And then the provider you were using when you noticed the issue. And this one goes hand in hand with the field and section name. The reason we ask for the provider is because sometimes it may not be a mapping issue. It could be that something in the platform either isn't in there, maybe it's been accidentally made inactive, or it's muted, or it's in the wrong field. So we don't want to change the mapping if it's something we can fix on the back end. And then finally, just the update that you need. So if you're like, hey, make this required, or hey, check this mapping, so forth and so on. And if you fill this out for us and email it back to support@modiohealth.com, they can go ahead and take care of any and all those edits for you. And if you have a bunch of things that you may need them to look at, please feel free to fill both of these up. You'll also use this to request those composites that we were talking about earlier. So they'll just need the form IDs and the name of the forms that you want in that composite packet, as well as the order you'd like them to appear in and what you want them to name that composite packet since it's specifically made for your team. And then you can also email this back to support@modiohealth.com. Let's jump back to our support tab, because there's a few other things that I wanted to mention here. So over here towards the right are those form turnaround times. So a newer form template is just like that blank PDF that has to be mapped. That's usually 3 to 7 business days. They will definitely keep in contact with you and let you know as soon as your form is available. The update to form template will be using the QA sheet that we just took a look at, and that's 1 to 3 business days. Again, they'll reach out to you and keep you looped in every step of the way when it comes to your forms. And then over here in the middle, we have again our tip guides. There is in the middle here, we have our requesting new forms tip guide. So if that's something that you're interested in, this is a great tip guide to view if you want to request new forms to be added to your team. And then we also have a using form tip guide, which is pretty much a summary of everything that we went over today. There's some really good screenshots in there, so I would definitely take a look at that tip guide, even if you just need a refresh. And while we're on the topic of training materials, if we click this Modio University link here, that's a link to our Modio U tab. If we scroll down here, there is a OneView Forms QA process start to finish. So this is a really great video to view. It goes over submitting new forms, also deep dive into filling out that QA sheet that we just took a look at and some other best practices. So if you kind of need a walkthrough start to finish process, if you do need to submit new forms or those revisions, definitely feel free to view this video. And then finally, at the very bottom, we do have our Meet the Modio team, and we do have a Meet the OneView Forms team. So if you're ever curious on, who the Forms team is, what they do, this is a great video as well to definitely take advantage of, as well as all the other videos here we have on our Modio U page. But that is everything that I wanted to go over. Feel free to look at other videos that we have available, and you can also register for courses here to see our live upcoming Modio U courses that we have. Have a great day!